Hi, I'm Angelo John Lewis from the Sacred Inclusion Network. We're here to talk about generations. We have an event coming up that's called Bridge Generations Change the World, and it's about cross-generational communications. And I wrote a little something, if I can find it, that sort of sums it up. Each generation carries its unique worldview shaped by different cultural influences, defining moments, and core values. Yet the challenges we face today call us to transcend generational divisions and embrace collaborations and mutual understanding. Gone are the days when youth proclaim, "Don't trust anyone over 30." I remember saying those words. Today's world urgently requires the idealism and fresh perspectives of younger generations, coupled with the experience of insight of older generations. So I know I'm asking a lot of you to act as representatives for your generation, but we'll try it anyway. And Lori, I think I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and maybe come up with maybe three keywords that you think define your generation.
Mm. Thank you for having me for this very important conversation. I'm Lori Laudermilk. I'm living in Ecuador, Canadian born, farm raised, with a background of growing up in a Mennonite community. So that's a little tiny bit. Three words would be protest, demonstration, rebellion, questioning core values, and the influence of television.
Yeah, so you're roughly probably in the same generation as me. So
Hmm.
we were it's like I will call it the 60s generation. Would that be accurate?
Yes, yes, it is. Yeah,
Things like Kent State happening, where people would,
yes.
and the song by the Buffalo Springfield, um, Four Dead in Ohio, all these kind of things were going on, and it was quite a time that influences us today, and especially like in a more quieter generation like Tamar's. Tamar, let's switch it to you. Same challenge to you. Tell me about yourself and introduce what generation you think you're of, and give me three words that sum it up for you.
Okay. Um, Hi, you two and everyone. Happy to be here talking to you. I didn't grow up in the United States. Generations are kind of definitely more concept of certain countries, but of course they exist throughout the world. It's just different versions, right? But I am a millennial, and in many ways, I think because of the internet and that being a part of the millennials, somewhat of our mm, early years, it does unify us throughout the earth a bit. Um, I would say that the three words for millennials would be disillusioned, disillusioned by institutions, as a mentor of mine would say, big daddy government, big mommy healthcare or pharma. Disillusioned by like being saved by, the institution. That's one. And then the other one is um autodidacts. So people that, learning on our own. I think that comes with disillusionment, right? Like especially of university where many of us went to school and were told that we'd get a job and make decent money and all that. And that was not true. So there's been a lot of self-teaching, and the internet has also provided that, right? It's like neutralized education in that way. And I'm very much a product of that. I'm super grateful for that too. And the last word would be um, probably multi-skilled, but like in an ADD kind of way, which is not necessarily bad. It's just is, and that's also because being specialists is more and more difficult in a time where the economy is so bad and so hard to make a decent living. So you just end up, yeah, learning a lot of your own. YouTube University, as Ian calls it, and learning a lot of skills so that you can kind of survive. It's also pretty cool because it makes for a generation that has a certain level of information about many, many things. So it's like open-minded. Um, yeah.
Yeah, wow. There's a lot there. And I can kind of see the continuation of things that were happening when Lori and I were coming up and when you were coming up, and some of the words that you used, especially this one about disillusion. But let's sort of build on that a little bit, and I'll probably join with Lori. Um, Lori, if you could maybe capture like maybe just one event, but you think was like critical in maybe your understanding of how we framed our generational reference, and I can join you with this.
This is such a big question, and will also have a big answer. And specifically, I think that I was really impacted by the Vietnam War, although I was
I was
Canadian,
thinking of, yeah,
am Canadian, but the Vietnam War because it was that's I think where disillusionment just rang very loud. That there was no real consultation, that this was something that the country, U.S. country, the people of the country actually really want to engage in, but there they were in this big fight. And this is again my interpretation of what I was experiencing at the time. And it was yeah, like I was saying to myself, yeah, like I don't actually feel the same as the government does, so to speak. So the disillusionment really started to ring loud, and that I had other ideas that were more important. First of all, to actually be able to stand up and speak and say, you know what, I don't actually agree with this. Does the rest of the world agree with this? And to actually see the violence and cruelty. And that just had such a big impact on how I felt the world wanted to live, at least through my eyes. So that was very impactful. And also being able to actually have say, because there were so many protests. There were so many people standing up and saying, this isn't right. We don't really agree with this. We don't want this to happen in this manner. So being able to actually feel the power of that you could stand up and you could say, which kind of, is being echoed in Tamar's generation as well. This disillusionment is just ringing very, very loud. And how are we going to respond to that? And how has that impacted lives? And for me, it really impacted in that I really saw, sort of a disassociation between what establishments and governments and institutions were doing and how the people were living their lives. And I felt really inspired and compelled to speak up for the people that I worked for or with. And that's how it played out in my life. So, exterior wise, advocating, speaking up, trying to break down boundaries. I specifically worked a lot of my life in the area of people with disabilities and mental health issues. And so how could, speaking up improve their lives? Because again, there was such a discrepancy as to how they could live and how, the other part of the population lived. So I hope that answers your
Yeah,
question.
I mean, we could talk about other things that happened around that time, but that was really a big one, And one of the things that I think stand out to me thinking about the theme of generations is that we really split from our parents' generation.
very
They
much.
were all institutional. They said, whatever, Nixon, whatever, we're going to go to war. But we weren't having it. It was like a real big divide that split a lot of families. You know, um, it's almost, it's just interesting to look back on it.
Mhm.
Yeah, Tamar, you mentioned the internet. I wonder if there's like one particular event or sort of cultural moment that stands out for you that maybe represents your generation.
Well, because I bet people would say 9/11, but that's not my moment because I wasn't in the States, so that I can't claim that. Um, yeah, I think it's still the internet, to be honest, because for millennials, it came into houses in different times, but it came into all the houses and had a irreversible effect. Suddenly there's a computer. Maybe there was a computer before, but then now there's internet, and now we can download a song. Like that was mind blowing. That I I remember my first song that I downloaded. Um, but yeah, I think it's just undeniable that that's the most, at least for me, for my eyes, the most altering phenomenon of the generation. And also, it happened not, at least in my age, um, not like when I was 3, right? Or it was like age 11 or 12. Like I remember being in a car and my parents telling me, "We're going to get internet." Oh, internet? What's that? You'll be able to connect to other people through the computer. What? And then like hearing that ding, that first internet song the modem song that we all have engraved in our psyche.
You got
It's
mail.
yeah. Yeah, it's I think that's just, I can't not say that one for me, at least. Not that I speak for everyone, but just for me.
Well, I mean, I think I can speak for, I can't speak for Lori, but I know it was big for me. And it almost seems like there's two different species. People that were born before the internet and people that were born afterwards. What was the impact of the internet for you, Lori?
Huge. But I mentioned television earlier because we actually grew up with television, and that was, kind of the foreshadowing or
Yeah, kind of our
the
internet in a
opening for
way.
the internet. And yes, absolutely, it was huge. It was like who doesn't remember their life before internet and after when of our age. And the impact. And it was like, in some ways, what Tamara was saying is that this was the excitement for me was that I could connect with other people. And I love that because just maybe my wiring, I like the more global, more universal, the bigger picture of what's happening. And so that just, the promise and the inspiration from that was huge. A big deal.
Yeah, same here. I remember in the early days of what is now called the Sacred Inclusion Network, we didn't have the internet. I mean, we had it, but it was just like messaging. It wasn't like like
Yeah.
it is today. So that meant that we relied on face-to-face meetings all the time. We didn't have this thing that we're talking over now, like Zoom, which is like almost replaced the telephone, at least for me, in many instances. So yeah, it's something that our generation share.
Yes.
Let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit about communicating across differences. And I'm wondering, I'm sure that um, we have positive um, influences, from older generations, younger generations, and a lot of times it's an easy flow, but sometimes it's not. And I'm wondering if you could, each of you can, anybody can start. Maybe reflect on a challenge that you've had speaking with somebody older than you, or just communicating with somebody older than you.
Well, I could start by, again, this is specific to how I grew up and where I grew up and the challenges that I had. First, as someone who was seeing beyond the community that I grew up and lived in, and the rules and what was expected, for people in that community. So that part and the second part being, female and actually having a different vision for my life. And that was to move beyond the community and move beyond the general roles of that community, which was that one was married, one had kids, and continued on with the generational aspects of this community, and feeling very challenged by that at a very, very, very young age. And I can remember, when I was maybe 11 or 12, really challenging some of the beliefs that community held. And, when I was moving out of high school and had other dreams and expectations for my life, and coming up to, up to kind of opposition and judgment of what I was choosing and how I was going to choose to move from high school into the rest of my life. And that was to attend university, to move away from the community, to be on my own, and those kinds of things. So I was very lucky in that my father also saw life from a very big picture, and was supportive of me, as was my mother, and in some ways more my mother than my dad. And they just really saw that there was so much more to how I could live my life. And I actually would attribute to the television, that the television actually gave a bigger view of how people could live, so that was a real positive aspect for me. And, again, my dad seeing life from a very big picture. So that was probably, I felt that already when I was 10 or 11, that there was a generation and a sort of a religious gap into how I felt and what I thought about and how I saw my life. So it was a challenge.
Well, I was very rebellious, and I got along with my parents along those times, but there was such a disconnect. I remember when they had their 20th wedding anniversary, I was so mad that I couldn't get into the house. The wedding anniversary was somewhere else. I was mad. My hair was out to here. And she's laughing. It's true. And I wasn't the only person that was very rebellious, it was like a big deal. I don't really think you could speak to it, Tamara, that you have such a big deal, not necessarily just you, but this whole generational thing with older people that maybe Lori and I have.
Yeah, probably way less in that sense. The I think it's because things are moving so fast with technology and globalization. It's different challenges and not the one so much you speak to for me at least, but more like not being able to see, because we grew up with the technology. I feel like some pushback, not so much my parents, but pushback from people that have been doing what they've been doing for a very long time. And so not being able to project into the future another way of doing things. And there's also, I also find, because the internet allows for so much learning and information, there is some, from institution, of course, like from people that are more in the institution, there's some resistance of that, of like, well, you didn't do it how I did, which was XYZ. So there's no way you can speak to this. That there's some of that. But I think it all comes down to appreciation, really. And obviously fears, right? People have fears that they bring. But a lot of it is appreciation of, like, I find, like, if older people, everyone wants to be appreciated for what they've done and what they've learned, their life's work, their journey. their experiences, and there is something in industrialized culture. There's been less and less respect for people, older people. So I think there's that forms a part of the like conflict, because now there's less respect for older people coupled with new ways to learn things. And then older people feel unappreciated, maybe on a level disrespected. Um, so I think about that a lot. I'm like, well, yeah, there doesn't need to be conflict if there's respect, or if there's more respect. And like at the end of the day, if someone doesn't want to trust my opinion or my life experience or my vision, that's okay. It doesn't actually affect anything. So I don't know. I'm not in conflict a lot about those things with older people, because um I do have respect, and I also, at the end of the day, I know what I know. They know what they know. It's all good.
Well, you know
It's not
where
gonna shake
the thing that you just where it
my
shows
beliefs, you know.
is in like in the workplace. And none of us are in the conventional workplace right now, but there's like a whole thing where you have older people that've been around for a long time. They got younger people coming up who will work cheaper. And there's this kind of thing about trying to push the older people out the door so they can ascend. And in that kind of sphere, there's a conflict between the generations. But of course, the three of us are not a part of that now. But I think I would be remiss to remark on the fact that I'm talking to two women, and what the changes that women have gone through societally are very different, are very big, is what I'm trying to say. And I wonder if you could speak to that, Lori, maybe what it was like just as a woman coming up, and maybe we can get some dialogue as to how things have changed, and maybe how women can help each other, which I think is actually important.
Well, that is a very good question. I think that there has been huge changes, but there's been some things that have really stayed the same. Um, and I'll speak to the changes. And I kind of like you, Angelo, was a tad rebellious, and it might speak to some of the things that Tamar just was talking about, in that I felt that I knew what I knew, and respecting my that knowing, and just going forward, and realizing that there had been created a gap where women could be, do, say, and be different in the world in a way that my mom wouldn't have had a chance to do. And I think that some of the changes also have been sped up because of the internet, because the internet has been it has been something that has kind of leveled off the generations in a sense, and it where we've made kind of, to like, we live in a parallel universe in the internet, and we have access to these things. What we say, what we know, actually there's an equalizer there, because in my mind at this moment, that's what I'm seeing, and I think that has afforded more opportunity. And I'm not about to say that it's been easy for some people, for some women, to do what they are, and what they wanted to achieve in the world. But I think that the sense of knowingness that was instilled in me, that I knew what I knew, and that really helped me to be an advocate for other people, and move forward in the things that I thought were really important. Um, so yeah, I just think that the internet has opened up the world for women in that way too.
So Tamar, talk about the maybe the relationship with you and your mom, and see how what was it like for her? What was it like for you? Just in terms of just in terms of your gender.
Hmm. For my mom. Mm, I'm not sure I can speak
You can
so
use a
much for her.
proxy aunt, just older women.
What's that?
You
Okay.
can, yeah.
Um, I see. Um, well, Yeah, clearly things have changed a lot. I was also I did work in tech for a bit. So, not a lot of ladies. Um, and there's its own culture there that I eventually quit because it was just too toxic for me personally. That specific place I was working at. But I know that it's a different time than it was for her, for my mom, and for other women. Um, and I also know that it's not necessarily good or bad. I'm a little more, I have some controversial views, I guess. I don't know. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But it's cool to be able to choose your life, obviously, and to be able to choose your life and then be expected to make money and raise a family if you want to raise a family is kind of like a trick that we've that we've been I don't want to get into it too much, but that we've been made to believe is like good for us. Like it's actually way too much. Um, the life that I've been living, which is like working full time, many things, doing many things, and then like I want to have a baby and I'm expected to do both of those things and spend time and like give myself as a woman to my child and nurture. So that's actually a negative that is sort of culturally thrusted upon us that we can do everything and we should do everything, and that's what it means to be a boss. Like I don't, if that's what it means to be a boss, being a boss sucks and you're just drained of energy. And you're like hateful and mean because you're so tired and drained. So, in some sense, I think my mom chose a really cool path of she did have a job as a she did graphic design essentially. Um, which is also what I do partially. And she decided with my dad that he would be the main provider and she would, as soon as she had kids, that she would be a stay-at-home mom and cook for us and be with us and raise us. And that seems pretty cool because she wanted it. And that's, I think, what matters. It's like, what does the person want? What does the woman want? What actually makes her feel pleasure and fun and connection, and not just like whatever culture says you should do. You should be a boss and make a da 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 money and also XYZ. So yeah, I think those are very confusing cultural things that TV and movies tell us are cool, that I think are very manipulative, that were seeds of like the intention is good, is like liberation. But then there's also like, hey, we can tax 50% more of the population now and put people in the workforce that weren't there. There's some insidious stuff behind that. So I think what I have the pleasure and the gift to see that as a millennial that has the internet and can think for myself, hopefully. That's what I believe at least. And to decide for myself, like, oh, what is actually good for me um, in this moment? What feels good, and what can I create for myself and with the people around me that brings more peace and more harmony, and therefore not depend on other people. And I have that as a gift. I think probably for my mom's generation, it wasn't as easy to make that choice. So as women, they weren't empowered to in the same way.
Yeah, that's a kind of a big subject, you know. The thing I heard in what you were just sharing is that, yeah, there's this ideal that was sort of thrust on, I guess, women, especially, like, go to work, make your own money and all that. To the extent that now, if a woman is a stay-at-home mom, she's to some extent stigmatized by other people. It's very interesting. It's like come full circle in a way.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
happened
Can you imagine?
quickly.
It happened
Sorry?
quickly.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
happened very quickly. That switch happened very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think you were part of the exploration that that woman did about the divine female. It's very interesting thinking about that whole thing, you know. I hadn't thought about that at all. Let's talk about communication between and a bridge building between you know, generations. And I'm wondering if any of you have been part of what I'll call either formal or informal mentoring relationships and what that's looked like. I'll start by speaking for myself, and then
So,
only because you all are silent. So my mentor is an well, I haven't been really talking to her lately, but she's like what is she? Maybe 10 or 15 years older than I am. And at one time, my whole thing was like organizational development and consulting. And if it wasn't for her, I would have never really you know, advanced into that. Whenever I had like an issue, I was dealing with some organization, I didn't know what to do. You know, you know, I would call Kathy, and Kathy would basically tell me what to do, you know, or give me some guidance, you know, and I don't know if I could have gotten that from some like a peer age group in such a way that I did from Kathy. And I tried to be a mentor to younger people. I don't know what kind of job that I'm doing, but anyway, anyway, that's what stands out for me from the point of being of being a mentee.
I can speak in that it's any mentorship that I've received or given is informal. And I think of, you know, key incidences that happened when I just began, you know, my career working with people with disabilities and, you know, someone who was older, but also from a different culture. And, you know, just really key points that have stuck with me my whole entire life. Really important key points. And if I'm really honest and I look at this now, I think that's kind of what I share with those younger people who might, you know, be in conversation with me about specific things that they're, you know, looking at and dealing with or working through. That it's very similar in what I might offer, you know, someone younger than I, and you know, very impactful. But I think also, and maybe this is just, you know, my own experience, is that mentorship is becoming more and more important. And I really see the value of mentorship from, you know, someone older, someone younger, because I have to also say that the younger generation is teaching me so much. And I'm really appreciating the opportunities that I have for new learning. So yeah, I'll just kind of leave it at that.
Okay. Tamar?
um, yeah, I love Lori's answer. Lori, you're such a legend. Yeah, I learned, you know, we're really good friends, Lori and I endlessly learn from her. It's really amazing. And yeah, I've also been I would say informal. I guess I've also been in a lot of classes and school stuff, my own, uh, like outside of college, you know, further education kind of stuff. And you can say that that's mentorship too, but it's been more informal and as someone that loves to learn, of course, I value mentorship, and I've joked with some people in my life, especially when I was in the music community, that I was like mentoring them, like younger people. But what is mentoring? I guess it's kind of being there for support and potentially advice. And of course, that's important. What's really important though for me too is like there's because I feel like the community structure, as we all know, is not what it used to be, right? Like we're more siloed. Um, we're we don't have those lifelong relationships in the same environment as we used to. You know, the neighbor that lived over there for 50 years, whatever, etc. And therefore mentorship is more and more important. And also there's almost like a hole for it, like a black hole or something. And for me personally, I've noticed in the past wanting that type of relationship, wanting guidance in a way that then showed up as like a power thing, like this person is wiser than me, therefore more powerful. So it's something to be of note as well, of like I'm also into like breaking that paradigm. I talk with my friends about this quite a bit, of like breaking the dynamic of like teacher is great, teacher is perfect, they know what's right for me. No, I know what's right for me at the end of the day, and I had to kind of get my power back in a few informal mentorship situations where I can tell the advice is nice, and well intended maybe, but they can't possibly know what's right for me. No one knows what's right for me except me, ultimately. But people can, of course, be a helping hand. And so I want to speak to that, because when there's a lack, often there's like a deep desire. And I've noticed in my life that I can make excuses for a situation because I really want it to work. But it's important to like be aware that ultimately no one has the answer but ourselves.
It's like a understanding the power dynamics, and negotiating them, in a sense that you have agency. I understand what you're saying. I mean, it's a whole different thing if you're looking for this relationship, and from the other side, it's realizing that the person that you're quote mentoring, you want them to have agency. Yes, you want to provide advice and counsel if it's needed, but you don't want to step on their um, necessity of making their own decisions of things. Anyway, that's how I see it. So we're
Can
talking
I
about,
give a little example, Angela?
yeah, I
Can I
can
give
give it,
a,
but go ahead. Yeah. Me?
can I give example?
Yeah, please. Yeah, because I can nail it.
Well, so it makes more sense because I'm saying more general things. For example, one of my teachers in my herbalism journey, the first class, he told us, question everything, question me, question what I say, because that's how we learn. We learn together, right? And there did come a time where I did, and he was a bit like defensive, and I told him like, that's cool. I don't mind that. Like that's all good. Like I'm into that sort of thing, but I know what I know, and you know what you know, and we don't have to agree. Like that type of negotiation at some point, like that kind of discourse is so empowering. And that's when you stop believing people are better than you or something like that, or I'm better than him or something. That's not what it's about. It's like it is about um, connecting to oneself and seeing other people as human beings. Like sometimes in mentorship, there could, and that happens with doctors all the time, right? That happens with people with authority. Like this person's an expert. How could I know more about my body than this person? This is one of those things where it's very important to like retain the respect for the person, for their gifts, and retain the self-respect.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's like, from the other side, if you're like somebody that's older and you've got experience, it's to some extent it becomes hard to listen to somebody that doesn't have it, and it takes a amount of discipline and humility to be able to meet as equals in a sense.
I just want to say that this is one of the gifts that I'm really seeing with the younger generation for me is that knowingness and that ownership of the knowingness that they have. And I just think that is such an evolution for me. And I'm so loving to actually witness that with the people that I do, the younger people that I'm in conversation with, is that they're owning what they know and who they are, and I absolutely love that. In the process, they're discovering more of, who that is for themselves, and I just love that. I just think that's such a great gift, because this is for me where I want to see people going, where they actually know and own it, and move forward with that knowing. It's a great
Yeah,
gift.
yeah, that's Tamar was talking about the influence of the internet earlier in our conversation, and I think it has this leveling effect in a certain sense. And
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about among in terms of the generations, we have access to all that. So so everybody to some extent has access to more knowledge. So the idea of there being like a repository that's of a certain age or a certain position or something, it's sort of like, yes, that's there, but it's like breaking down a little bit, I think. Maybe breaking down a lot.
And in part, I think, what Tamar is pointing at for me is, yes, with all of the knowledge that the internet gives and provides and stuff like that, being true to the knowing that is here in your own heart. And that's what is so exciting and refreshing for me. It is that.
Okay, so let's I want to slowly wrap this up here because we could talk for a couple of hours. So we're going to be with a audience of people that want to know about generations, and we've been relatively what's the word talking about how great everything is in terms of how it is like in the 21st century with us, But what do you think the challenges are of dealing with people that are younger, older, whatever, just in general, not just on an individual. Individual can be very easily, but when you think about group level stuff, what do you see as some of the challenges that are out there?
Oh, I'll speak first, just because I'm going to just bring up something that Tamar brought up earlier, and the age that older people aren't regarded, shouldn't be regarded anymore. That I mean that's I think that is that heightened compared to how I felt about the older generation. For me, I don't know, but I think that is something that has been nurtured and fostered in many ways that older people really don't have. They don't really have a clue. And some of the medical institutions, and if I can point directly at them, they're really big on letting us know that people with my color of hair I really don't have a whole lot to contribute. And that's that again, I rise in my rebelliousness about that, to challenge that, and find ways to listen to other generations, younger generations, that actually let's have a share some experiences about that. So uh, that's what I want to say about that.
Tamar,
I
any
love
challenge?
that.
Everything is all peace and love.
If I express peace and love, I felt like I was bringing up some challenging things, but I just think what Lori's saying is really big, really, really big. Um, a lot of our cultural programming has been to give importance to things like youth and um, over wisdom. And how could that not affect every part of our lives, from like disrespecting our parents or not taking them seriously, or not taking um, other elders in the community or whoever as seriously, in some level subconsciously. Like, I'm aware of this, of course, and yet I don't know, how has it affected me subconsciously? Like, it's something that has been very strong, and like convincing us that beauty is wrinkleless, right? Like all these things are very deep in our psyches. So there's a lot of unlearning, and that is a challenge. It's also like, I don't know, it is a funny thing for me in my life because people, I walk around with a book bag and people usually think I'm younger than I am, um, which is fine. But it's like often they don't think I have much experience, right? They don't think I have much to contribute because I'm younger. So this is like the other side of that. Like, what does she know? She's just like a young lady. What could she know about, whatever I'm doing, from tech to like natural health? So there's all of that, but that's okay. I mean, that's like, oh, I hope you can hear me. It says that it's unstable. You can hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll say, I mean, life is full of projections, and we all have our versions of it. So I
Yeah, I
guess
think,
those are challenges for everybody. Everyone's challenged in that way.
don't know if I'm
It's,
romanticizing things, but it seems like in olden days it wasn't like this. In other words, like half the time, well, even if I go if a place like China, a lot of times generations live in one house. So it seems like there's a little bit more built-in respect and understanding that there's different stages of life and not bad or whatever. But maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but that's kind of how it seems to me, looking at other cultures and also looking at older cultures. Older meaning more traditional oriented cultures.
Yeah, where Lori and I are, it is different in
Yeah.
that sense. It's not a global thing.
So let's wrap this up. What is the importance of us getting a handle on this thing? Is this something that is worth spotlighting as we are? What is the importance of us learning to communicate better across generations, in your view?
well, the most important is it just creates more understanding and connection. Um, Even though it could be conflictual, there still is more understanding and there is more connection, even through that process of conflict and maybe coming to another end of that conflict. I just which will spawn respect and maybe inspiration and all things. But for me, it's always just being having opportunities to understand others, and in understanding others, you understand yourself more and maybe more deeply. And yeah, just those connections in building, stronger ties to others, your own heart, other people's hearts. So it's in some ways just that simple.
Yeah. I mean, I think a simple thing, so having a son that's maybe probably about tomorrow's age, I can guess anyway. Maybe tomorrow's, I don't know how old tomorrow is. But anyway, I learned a lot from him. I would not be up to date. I'm not up to date, but anyway, through him I've met his friends, I've met his family and all these kind of things. So it's like instead of being kind of siloed and just around people around my age, I feel blessed that I've been able to interact with people that are younger than me. It sort of keeps me energized anyway. Well,
And young.
yeah, I don't want to use that word.
Yeah, for me, definitely. But yes, I totally resonate. Yeah. Yeah.
How about you, Tamar? What's the importance of this subject for you?
Oh, the importance of this subject. Well, it's everything to be able to see each other for who we are. It's everything to learn from each other. All of that, by the way, all of that disrespect becomes self-hate, right? Because if you're disrespectful of someone who's older than you, guess what? You're gonna get to that age, and a part of you is rejecting that future version, right? And that's so sad. That's sad too. So it's everything. We were all um, on that journey of growing up. So it'll help us all. And I'm so grateful. I've always had friends of different ages, and it's just been so clear that that's what I want to be doing. And with Lori, I never think about our age. I don't know. Every now and then, maybe like a reference to something I don't know or Lori doesn't know, but it's not like it comes up and it's like a focal point in any way. It's just, Lori, I don't know. You have a timeless spirit. I don't know. You don't
Thank
feel older to me also. Even though you teach me so much, it's not I don't know, maybe because we are siloed, it is surprising that it's not that big of a deal to to like have relationships with different people in different ages. One of my best friends is like almost 10 years younger than me. Um, and we joke that I'm like the older sister, but I don't know, it's all good, it's all respect, and it's a
Yeah, I
blessing.
mean, yeah, I live in a more I don't is this urban? Anyway, I live around a lot of people that aren't in Ecuador. Let's just put it that way. And also I'm getting older, and I'm conscious of that. Before I was like kind of like I don't want to say, I guess I'll say I was in denial that the process of aging is affecting me. And now I can't deny it, And so um that gives me a sense of humility to a certain degree. I say to a certain degree, I don't know how humble I am. But it's just broadened my awareness of, who I am, how I fit. And when I see younger people coming up, I even think about things like legacy and what can I give and what can I give back? Because I'm not going to be here, forever, And I was thinking about what you said reminded me of something. Yes, we're all the same, but we're all like differently. I don't want to say what's the word? Laura, you work with people that are what's the word? Differently abled. There's different words for that. We're all differently abled. So we're all in a place of yes, we're in a state of wellness right now, but that's going to decay. That's going to leave. So it's like how can I acknowledge that and be in touch with the spirit which outlives all those things, which maybe has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But anyway, that's what I think about.
And maybe that's the key, is the spirit and the heart of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, ladies, thank you so much for taking this time. I will put this out sometime in the next week or so, and I will tell people that in the third week of this month, which I don't remember what date it is, that's a Saturday, we're going to have an exploration that's called Bridging Generations Change the World, and maybe you'll join us. I hope you will. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right, take
Tamara.
care. All right.
Thank you both.